A single mother's journey through grief and finding meaning in life. Single mother Emily Harper, a self-employed graphic designer in Portland, and her daughter Ava after her husband Daniel abandons her to pursue fame in Los Angeles with his new lover. Stella, hurt by Stella's pain and Ava's pain. Emily takes revenge. The story begins. Everyone, please subscribe to my Sweet Revenge YouTube channel. The rain in Portland fell like a whispered curse, draping Emily Harper's world in a shroud of gray mist that clung to her skin as she stood on the sagging porch of her Alberta Arts District bungalow. The chipped coffee mug in her hands burned her palms, its warmth a fleeting rebellion against the damp chill seeping through her thin sweater. At 35, Emily's chestnut hair, once a cascade of vibrant curls, was now streaked with premature gray, her green eyes dulled by years of carrying a life frayed at the edges. Her freelance graphic design work, endless nights hunched over a flickering laptop, chasing deadlines for clients who barely paid, kept the lights on. But barely. The bungalow, with its creaking floors and mismatched furniture, was a fading echo of the life she'd once painted with Daniel Harper, her ex-husband. 7 years ago, their marriage had been a vibrant canvas, late nights sketching while he strummed his guitar, his velvet voice weaving dreams in their cramped apartment, their laughter a melody that promised forever. Now, Daniel was in Los Angeles, chasing fame with a new muse, Stella Monroe, leaving Emily and their 10-year-old daughter, Ava, to gather the scraps of a broken family in a neighborhood where murals bloomed on crumbling walls but hope withered like forgotten flowers. Inside, the bungalow smelled of damp wood and basil, the latter from a pot of spaghetti sauce simmering on the stove. Emily stirred it mechanically, her knife slicing through carrots with a rhythm that mirrored her heartbeat, steady but heavy with unspoken grief. Ava sat at the kitchen table, her pencil scratching across a sketchbook, her chestnut curls, identical to Emily's in her youth, bouncing as she drew birds soaring over bridges that spanned imaginary rivers. The fridge was a gallery of Ava's art, vibrant explosions of color that were Emily's only anchor in this storm of a life. But even that bond was fraying. Ava's laughter, once a bright chime, had grown scarce, her green eyes often glued to her phone, waiting for Daniel's rare texts. "How's school, sweetie?" Emily asked, forcing warmth into her voice, though it cracked like the bungalow's peeling paint. She glanced at Ava, desperate for a connection, her hands trembling as she chopped. Ava shrugged, not looking up, her pencil pausing. "Fine," Dad texted. "He's coming next week. Stella's planning a big show for him in LA." The name Stella landed like a blade in Emily's chest, sharp and cold. She gripped the knife tighter, her knuckles whitening, picturing Stella, 29, glamorous, her red lipstick a taunt, her designer clothes a stark contrast to Emily's faded jeans. "That's great, Ava," Emily managed, her voice a fragile thread, her smile a lie. She turned back to the stove, her heart pounding as she imagined Stella parading Ava like a prop in Daniel's rockstar fantasy, her daughter's loyalty slipping away with every glitzy promise. The air grew heavier when Daniel arrived days later, his rented convertible gleaming under Portland's drizzle, Stella at his side like a polished trophy. Her designer sunglasses glinted, her laugh a sharp note that cut through the gray. They whisked Ava off to Powell's Books, leaving Emily on the porch, her coffee gone cold, her heart twisting as Ava's laughter echoed down the street, a sound she hadn't heard in months. Later, at a crowded coffee shop on Alberta Street, the hum of espresso machines and chatter couldn't drown out Stella's voice. She leaned across the table, her manicured nails tapping her latte cup, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Emily, you're so resilient," she said, loud enough for nearby patrons to glance over, their eyes flickering with pity or curiosity. "This little life of yours, scraping by, all alone in this quaint little house. It's almost inspiring." The words were a venomous dart, each syllable dripping with condescension. Emily's face burned, her hands clenching her coffee cup so tightly she feared it would crack, the ceramic scalding her palms. She forced a smile, her lips trembling, her eyes darting to Ava, who was coloring at the table, her small face creased with confusion. "Mom's not alone," Ava said, her voice small but defiant, her pencil pausing mid-stroke. She looked up, her green eyes searching Emily's, but there was a flicker of doubt there, a crack in her trust that made Emily's stomach lurch. "Of course, sweetie," Stella cooed, patting Ava's hand, her smile widening like a predator's. "You're such a brave girl. aren't you? Emily's throat tightened, her pulse a frantic drumbeat. She wanted to scream, to hurl her coffee at Stella's perfect face. But she swallowed the rage. Her voice locked in her chest. The coffee shop's warmth felt suffocating. The rain outside tapping the windows like a warning she couldn't heed. That night, alone in her cramped studio, Emily sat at her desk. The laptop's blue glow casting shadows on the walls papered with Ava's old drawings. Her tears fell onto a half-finished design, blurring the lines of a logo she'd been tweaking for a client who'd already complained twice. The rain pounded the bungalow's roof, a relentless rhythm that mirrored her unraveling soul. I'm losing her, she whispered to the empty room, her voice breaking, her hands shaking as she clutched a photo of Ava at 5, a gap-toothed smile under a rainbow she'd painted with clumsy, joyful strokes. Stella's words echoed in her mind, each one a splinter, scraping by. All alone, Emily's gaze hardened, her tears drying as she stared at the photo. The rain outside was no longer just a sound, it was a call to fight. A spark igniting something fierce and dangerous in her heart. She wouldn't let Stella's cruelty define her, nor Daniel's absence steal Ava's love. The canvas of her life was crumbling. But Emily Harper was not yet broken. The rain in Portland drummed a relentless tattoo against the bungalow's warped roof. Its rhythm a sinister pulse that matched the fury smoldering in Emily Harper's chest. In the dead of night, her tiny studio was a cocoon of shadows, lit only by the cold blue glow of her laptop screen, which cast jagged patterns across the walls plastered with Ava's fading drawings, birds and bridges now curling at the edges, their colors dulled by time. Emily sat hunched at her desk, her green eyes bloodshot, her chestnut hair tangled from restless fingers. The chipped coffee mug, now cold and forgotten, sat beside a clutter of unpaid bills and a half-eaten sandwich, its crust curling like her hope. Stella Monroe's venomous words from the coffee shop, scraping by, all alone, had struck a match in Emily's heart, and the flame was consuming her. The humiliation, the pitying glances from strangers, and worst of all, the doubt in Ava's eyes had ignited a rage she barely recognized. A beast clawing at the cage of her restraint. Emily's nights had become a ritual of obsession, while Ava slept in her room down the hall, her soft snores a fragile reminder of the daughter Emily feared she was losing. Emily scoured old hard drives, her fingers trembling as they clicked through folders labeled Daniel's Demos, 2015, and Wedding Songs. Her breath hitched as she unearthed tracks from their early marriage, raw, soulful melodies Daniel had claimed as his own, songs that had once filled their tiny apartment with dreams. You thief, she whispered, her voice jagged, her eyes narrowing as she recognized chords lifted from obscure indie bands they'd seen in smoky Portland bars. Daniel had passed them off as originals, building his rising fame on stolen notes, while Emily had cheered him on, blind to his deceit. The betrayal cut deeper than Stella's taunts, a knife twisting in the wound of their broken love. The bungalow groaned under the storm's weight, its creaking floors echoing Emily's unraveling. Her freelance work was crumbling, clients emailed about missed deadlines, their tones sharp, but Emily barely noticed, her focus razor sharp on Daniel's glittering career. She imagined him on LA stages, Stella at his side, her red lipstick a smug slash as they toasted to success built on lies. They don't get to win, Emily muttered, her voice low, her hands shaking as she copied the demo files to a USB drive. The plastic slick under her sweating palms. The rain outside was no longer just a backdrop, it was a conspirator, urging her toward a reckoning. Maggie Chen, Emily's neighbor and a retired therapist, saw the change in her friend. Over jasmine tea in Maggie's cozy living room, its walls lined with books and Tibetan prayer flags fluttering in the draft. Maggie's dark eyes softened with concern. The teapot steamed between them, its delicate curl a contrast to the storm in Emily's heart. You're burning yourself out, Emily, Maggie said, her voice gentle but firm, pouring tea into a porcelain cup that clinked softly against its saucer. Emily's hands shook as she took the cup, the warmth doing little to thaw the ice in her veins. She called me a nobody, Maggie, she said, her voice low and raw, her eyes fixed on the tea's amber surface. In front of Ava, Stella stood there, smirking, while my daughter looked at me like I was nothing. I can't let her win. Maggie leaned forward, her gray-streaked braid falling over her shoulder, her tone steady. You're not a nobody, Emily, you're Ava's mother, but this anger, it's not for her. It's eating you alive. Emily's gaze dropped, her fingers tightening around the cup, the porcelain creaking under her grip. I need to make them see, she whispered, her voice barely audible, the rain tapping Maggie's windows like a warning she refused to heed. The breaking point came one stormy evening when Ava returned from a weekend with Daniel. Her backpack slung over one shoulder, her eyes red and swollen. She stood in the kitchen, clutching her sketchbook, her small frame trembling as the rain lashed the windows, the glass rattling in its frame. Emily, stirring a pot of soup, froze at the sight of her daughter's face. Ava, what's wrong? She asked, her voice tight, her heart lurching as she set the spoon down, the metal clanging against the counter. Ava's voice was small, a whisper nearly drowned by the storm. Stella said you're holding Dad back, she said, her eyes fixed on the floor, her fingers digging into the sketchbook's cover. She said you're pathetic. The word landed like a gunshot, echoing in the cramped kitchen, the air thick with the scent of time and despair. Emily's hands gripped the counter, the wood cool under her palms, her pulse a frantic drumbeat. Ava, that's not true, she said, her voice shaking, stepping toward her daughter. But Ava flinched, her gaze distant, her faith in her mother cracking like the bungalow's foundation. She said Dad could have been a star if it wasn't for you. Ava whispered, her voice breaking, tears spilling down her cheeks. Emily's heart shattered, her vision blurring as she sank to her knees, reaching for Ava, but her daughter backed away, the sketchbook a shield between them. That night, the storm raged fiercer, the wind howling like Emily's grief. She sat in her studio, the rain pounding the roof, her heart a furnace of rage and pain. The laptop screen glowed with the music blog's submission page, the cursor blinking like a dare. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, her breath ragged, as she uploaded Daniel's plagiarized demos, attaching a scathing post titled Rockstar or Rip Off. This is for you, Ava, she told herself, her voice hollow, her eyes burning with unshed tears. But the words felt like ash, her heart racing as she hit publish, the screen's glow reflecting her hardened gaze. The rain outside roared its approval, a wild chorus to her act of vengeance. But inside, Emily felt no triumph, only the cold, creeping dread of a line crossed, a flame that might consume them all. The storm had passed, leaving Portland's streets slick and gleaming under a sky bruised with the last shades of dusk. In Emily Harper's Alberta Arts District bungalow, the air was heavy with the scent of damp wood and the faint tang of turpentine from Ava's paint cans. Stacked haphazardly in the corner of the living room, Emily sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open, its screen a harsh beacon in the dim light, casting shadows across her face, 35, etched with lines of grief and defiance, her chestnut hair pulled back in a messy bun, strands of gray catching the glow. Her green eyes, once vibrant, were now hollowed by sleepless nights, but tonight they burned with a dark thrill as she scrolled through music blogs and news sites. Headlines screamed across the digital void, rising star Daniel Harper accused of plagiarism. His face, pale, haggard, stripped of its rock star sheen, flashed on Portland's coffee shop TVs. His Los Angeles shows cancelled, his label cutting ties faster than a blade through silk. Stella Monroe, Daniel's glamorous muse, had vanished, her Instagram account dark, rumors swirling that she'd fled to latch onto a new prospect. Emily's fingers trembled as she refreshed a scathing review, her lips curling into a grim smile. You're nothing now, she whispered, her voice a low hiss. Imagining Stella's panic, her red lipstick smudged in desperation, and Daniel's despair as his empire crumbled. The bungalow was silent, save for the creak of its old bones and the faint drip of a leaky faucet. But Emily's triumph was a cold flame, flickering in the quiet, its warmth unable to reach the chill in her heart. Yet victory was a poison, seeping through her veins, tainting every breath. The front door creaked open, and Ava stormed in, her 10-year-old frame rigid with fury, her sketchbook clutched to her chest like a shield. Her green eyes, so like Emily's, blazed with hurt, her chestnut curls damp from the drizzle. She threw a crumpled flyer onto the table, a garish ad for Daniel's cancelled tour. His name crossed out in red ink. You did this, didn't you? Ava shouted, her voice cracking like glass, her small hands trembling as she pointed at Emily. The words were a gunshot, reverberating through the bungalow's cramped living room, rattling the mismatched picture frames on the walls, snapshots of happier days. now warped by time. Emily's stomach plummeted, her triumph dissolving into ash. Ava, she started, rising from her chair, her hands reaching out, but Ava recoiled, her face twisted with betrayal. Dad's ruined because of you, she screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks, her voice raw with pain. I hate you. The declaration was a dagger, plunging into Emily's heart, and she staggered back, her hands clutching the table's edge, the wood rough under her palms. Ava ran to her room, the door slamming with a force that shook the walls, leaving Emily alone in the dim light. Her knees buckling, she sank to the floor, her hands covering her face, her sobs silent but violent, each one a tremor that threatened to unravel her entirely. The bungalow's windows pressed Portland's gray dusk against the glass, a mirror to her despair. The silence now a suffocating weight. Days bled into weeks, and Ava's silence was a fortress Emily couldn't breach. Her daughter moved through the bungalow like a ghost, her eyes avoiding Emily's, her sketchbook filled with dark, jagged lines, broken birds, fractured bridges, their colors muted and angry. Emily tried to reach her, her voice soft as she knocked on Ava's door. Sweetie, can we talk? She pleaded, her hand resting on the chipped paint, her heart pounding with dread. No answer came, only the faint scratch of Ava's pencil, a sound that cut deeper than any words. Emily's freelance work faltered further, her inbox flooded with client complaints, but her mind was consumed by Ava's pain, by the rift she'd carved with her own hands. She wandered the Alberta Arts District, the murals on the walls, once a source of inspiration, now mocking her with their vibrancy. At a corner cafe, the barista's radio played a news segment about Daniel's downfall, his name a whisper in Portland's music scene, his spiral into addiction a grim footnote. Emily's heart twisted, not with pity but with the bitter taste of her own victory. Its cost etched in Ava's tear-streaked face. Maggie Chen, Emily's neighbor and confidant, tried to pull her back from the edge. Over tea in Maggie's living room, where Tibetan prayer flags swayed gently and bookshelves groaned under the weight of wisdom. Maggie's dark eyes were pools of concern. The teapot steamed between them, its jasmine scent a fleeting comfort against the storm in Emily's soul. You're drowning in this, Emily, Maggie said, her voice steady but laced with urgency, pouring tea into a delicate cup that clinked softly. Emily's hands shook as she took it, the porcelain cold against her fingers. I thought I was protecting her, she whispered, her voice breaking, her eyes fixed on the tea's surface, where her reflection wavered like her resolve. I wanted Stella to hurt, to lose everything, like she made me feel. But Ava, she's the one paying for it. Maggie leaned forward, her gray braid swinging, her tone firm. You can't undo what's done, but you can choose what comes next. Ava needs you, not your anger. Emily's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes, but Maggie's words were a lifeline she wasn't ready to grasp. She hates me, Maggie, she said, her voice barely audible, the rain outside tapping the windows like a metronome of regret. I broke her trust. Nights later, Emily lay awake in her bedroom, the bungalow's ceiling fan creaking above, its rhythm a taunt of her failure. The darkness pressed against her, heavy with the weight of Ava's closed door down the hall. She clutched a drawing Ava had made at 5, a stick figure family under a rainbow. Its colors faded like Emily's hope. I did this for you, she whispered to the empty room, her voice cracking, but the lie tasted bitter. Her vengeance had been for herself, a desperate attempt to reclaim power from Stella's cruelty, from Daniel's betrayal. Now, the ashes of her victory choked her, each breath a reminder of the daughter she'd pushed away. Portland's skyline glimmered faintly through the window, its lights distant and cold, and Emily's tears fell silently, staining the drawing in her hands. The bungalow, once a haven, was now a tomb, its walls closing in, and Emily Harper, the architect of her own triumph, was left to mourn the cost, a fractured bond, a daughter's love lost, and a heart scorched by the flames she'd set. Portland's spring air carried the scent of cherry blossoms and damp earth, a fragile promise of renewal that drifted through the open windows of Emily Harper's Alberta Arts District bungalow. 5 years had passed since the wildfire of her vengeance consumed Daniel's career and fractured her bond with Ava, and now, at 40, Emily stood in her kitchen, sunlight streaming across the worn wooden counter, glinting off a new coffee mug, unchipped, a small luxury earned from her thriving graphic design business. Her chestnut hair, still streaked with gray, was pulled into a loose braid, and her green eyes, though scarred by grief, held a quiet resilience. The bungalow had transformed into a haven, its walls vibrant with Ava's murals, rivers and forests painted in bold strokes. Her 15-year-old talent blooming like the blossoms outside, yet the scars of their past lingered, etched in the creaking floors and the faint echo of Ava's once shuttered door. Emily stirred a pot of oatmeal, the steam curling like her cautious hope, her heart tethered to the slow, painful work of rebuilding her daughter's trust. The kitchen table was cluttered with Ava's sketchbooks and Emily's design proofs, a testament to their shared creativity. Ava, now taller, her curls tamed into a messy bun, sat sketching, her pencil dancing across paper, her green eyes bright with focus. Therapy had been their lifeline, weekly sessions in a Selwood office with a therapist named Clara, whose gentle questions had unraveled their pain like a knotted thread. Emily glanced at Ava, her heart swelling but cautious, and ventured a question. "What's that one about, sweetie?" she asked, her voice soft, stirring the oatmeal with a wooden spoon that felt heavy in her hand. Ava looked up, her lips curving into a small smile. "A rare gift. It's a forest," she said, tilting the sketchbook to reveal towering trees and a river glinting with light, like the one we hiked last summer. Emily's chest tightened, warmth spreading through her. "It's beautiful, Ava," she said, her voice thick, her eyes lingering on her daughter's face, searching for the cracks she'd once caused. Ava's smile widened, and for a moment, the bungalow felt whole, its walls humming with possibility. But healing was a jagged path. Some nights, Emily still woke to the ghost of Ava's voice. "I hate you," her heart racing as she clutched the faded drawing of their stick figure family, its rainbow colors a taunt of lost innocence. Ava, too, carried wounds, her laughter sometimes faltering when Daniel's name surfaced. Their therapy sessions were raw, words spilling like blood. One afternoon, in Clara's office, where a potted fern drooped under the window, Ava's voice trembled as she spoke, her hands fidgeting with a paintbrush she'd brought. "I was so mad at you, Mom," she said, her eyes fixed on the floor, her curls falling over her face. "I thought you hated Dad, that you wanted to ruin him." Emily's throat closed, her hands twisting in her lap, the room's soft light blurring through unshed tears. "I was hurt, Ava," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I thought I was protecting you from Stella's cruelty, from Dad's lies. I was wrong." Ava's gaze lifted, her eyes glistening but steady. "I know, Mom," she said, her voice soft, her hand reaching for Emily's. A tentative bridge, their fingers intertwined, and Emily's heart stuttered, the touch of fragile thread stitching their bond back together. Maggie Chen, Emily's neighbor and guide, remained a steady presence. One spring afternoon, they sat in Maggie's backyard, where cherry blossoms fell like pink snow, carpeting the grass around a wrought iron table. The teapot steamed, its jasmine scent mingling with the lavender blooming nearby, and Maggie's dark eyes twinkled with wisdom. "You're finding your way, Emily," she said, pouring tea into a delicate cup, her gray braid swaying as she leaned forward. Emily sipped the tea, its warmth soothing the ache in her chest, her hands dusted with paint from a morning with Ava. "Ava's painting again," she said, her voice steady but laced with awe. Her laughter's back. "Maggie, it's enough." Maggie's smile was warm, her voice soft. "It's more than enough. You're enough." Emily's heart lifted, the blossoms a mirror to her hope, their petals drifting like the guilt she was learning to release. Portland's artistic pulse wove through their lives, its street fairs and murals a canvas for their renewal. One April, at a Hawthorne District Art Festival, Emily and Ava shared a booth, their table crowded with Ava's vibrant canvases, forests, rivers, birds soaring in fiery hues. Emily's heart swelled as Ava chatted with buyers, her confidence a spark that lit the crowd. "This one's inspired by the Columbia Gorge," Ava told a couple, her voice bright, gesturing to a painting of cascading water. Emily watched, her hands clasped, her chest tight with pride. Then, across the festival's bustle, she saw him, Daniel, thinner, his dark hair graying, his eyes clear but haunted, selling hand-bound journals at a modest booth. Ava noticed, her brush pausing mid-air, her breath catching. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice a mix of shock and longing, her hand trembling. Daniel approached, his steps hesitant, his leather jacket worn at the elbows. "Emily, Ava," he said, his voice rough like rain on gravel, his hands fidgeting with a journal. I'm trying to make things right." Emily's pulse raced, her hands clenching, memories of his betrayal flooding back, his stolen songs, his abandonment, but Ava's hopeful gaze held her still. A silent plea. They sat at a nearby cafe, the Willamette River glinting outside, its current a witness to their halting words. The cafe smelled of espresso and fresh bread, but the air between them was thick with history. Daniel spoke, his voice low, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug. I lost everything, my career, myself, he said, his eyes fixed on the table, his fingers tracing the mug's rim. I'm sober now, but I know I hurt you both. I'm sorry. Ava's eyes glistened, her voice small as she leaned forward, her sketchbook clutched in her lap. Why'd you leave us, Dad? She asked, her words sharp with years of pain. Daniel's face crumpled, his hands shaking, coffee sloshing onto the table. I was chasing a dream that wasn't real, he admitted, his voice cracking. I failed you, Ava. I failed you both. Emily's heart stormed, anger, pity, exhaustion colliding. But Maggie's words echoed, your anger's eating you. She took a breath, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I can't erase the past, Daniel, she said, meeting his gaze, her eyes fierce but calm. But for Ava, I'll let it go. Daniel nodded, tears falling, his shoulders slumping. Ava's hand found Emily's under the table. A silent thank you, her fingers warm and strong. The river outside flowed on, its surface catching the sun, and Emily felt a weight lift. Not forgiveness entirely, but a step toward peace. The bungalow's evenings were filled with Ava's laughter now, her weekends spent sketching with Emily. Their easels side by side in the studio, paint smudging their hands. Portland's skyline twinkled beyond the windows, its lights a constellation of possibility. Emily's business thrived, her designs gracing gallery walls. But her true masterpiece was Ava, their bond. Fragile but growing, a canvas painted with patience and love. The cherry blossoms fell, their petals a soft reminder that healing, like spring, came slowly, but it came. Portland's summer evening burned with a sunset of fiery pinks and golds, casting long shadows across the Alberta Arts District bungalow where Emily Harper stood in her backyard. The air thick with the sweet scent of blooming lavender and the hum of cicadas. At 41, Emily's chestnut hair, now more silver than brown, was tied back in a loose braid, her green eyes softened by years of hard-won peace. Her hands, dusted with paint, held a glass of iced tea, the condensation dripping onto her fingers like tears she no longer shed. The bungalow, once a tomb of her grief, was now a vibrant hub of creativity, its walls alive with Ava's murals, sweeping rivers, soaring birds, and forests that seemed to breathe. Ava, 16, was a radiant force, her talent lighting up Portland's art scene, her laughter a melody that filled the house. Yet, the echoes of their past, Daniel's betrayal, Stella's cruelty, Emily's vengeance, lingered like the faint creak of the bungalow's floors. A reminder of the ashes they'd risen from. Tonight, the string lights strung across the backyard twinkled like stars, and Emily's heart was full, tethered to the life she and Ava had painted together. Inside, the kitchen table was a chaos of art supplies, tubes of acrylic paint, brushes, and Ava's sketchbooks, their pages spilling with vibrant dreams. Emily and Ava volunteered at a community center now, teaching kids to draw, their shared passion a bridge that had mended their bond. Ava burst through the back door, her curls wild, her green eyes sparkling, a paint-splattered apron tied around her waist. Mom, the mural's almost done, she exclaimed, her voice bright, grabbing a glass of tea from the counter. Ice clinking, Emily smiled, her chest warming at her daughter's energy. Can't wait to see it. Sweetie, she said, her voice soft, setting her glass down, the wood cool under her palm. You've been out there all day, what's the new addition? Ava grinned, her paint-smudged cheek glowing in the light. A flock of herons, she said, mimicking their flight with her hands. Her movements fluid, they're soaring over the river. Like they're free. Emily's throat tightened, her eyes tracing Ava's face. Seeing the girl who'd once drawn broken birds now painting freedom. Sounds perfect, she whispered, her voice thick, the lavender scent drifting through the open door. A promise of tomorrow. Maggie Chen, their neighbor and sage, joined them under the string lights, her gray braid swaying as she settled into a wicker chair, a teapot steaming on the table. The backyard was a sanctuary, its grass soft underfoot, the sunset painting the sky like one of Ava's canvases. Maggie's dark eyes twinkled as she poured jasmine tea. its floral scent mingling with the evening air. You've painted a new life, Emily, she said, her voice warm, handing Emily a delicate cup that clinked softly. Emily sipped, the tea soothing the faint ache of memory. Her hand steady now. Ava's my masterpiece, she said, her voice soft but sure, her gaze drifting to her daughter, who was sketching on a napkin, her pencil flying. Maggie's smile was knowing, her tone gentle. And you, Emily, you're the frame that holds it all together. Emily's heart lifted, the string lights casting a golden glow, their warmth a mirror to the love she'd fought for. The next day, at a community mural project in Laurelhurst Park, Emily and Ava worked side by side, their brushes dancing across a massive wall, weaving a river of blues and greens, herons soaring above in graceful arcs. The park buzzed with life, families picnicking, children laughing, the air sweet with cut grass and freedom. Ava's laughter rang out, paint smudging her cheek, her apron a riot of colors. Mom, you're hogging the blue, she teased, nudging Emily's elbow, her brush dripping sapphire onto the ground. Emily laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight, and flicked her brush, sending a playful splatter across Ava's arm. That's for stealing my spot yesterday, she shot back, her voice light, her heart soaring. Ava grinned, wiping the paint with her sleeve, her eyes bright. You're such a kid sometimes, she said, but her tone was warm, her gaze holding Emily's, a silent acknowledgement of their journey. Emily's chest tightened, her brush pausing, the mural's colors blurring through sudden tears. She wiped Ava's cheek with her thumb, the paint soft under her touch. I'm proud of you, Mom, Ava said, her voice steady, her green eyes unwavering. You didn't give up on us. Emily's throat closed, tears spilling, her voice breaking. You're worth it, Ava, she managed, her hand lingering on her daughter's face. The park's sounds fading into a hush, the mural a canvas of their love. Daniel visited occasionally now, his presence quiet, respectful, his hand-bound journals a small offering to Ava's life. He'd been sober for years, his rock star dreams replaced by a humble existence, his eyes haunted but clear. Emily no longer flinched at his name, her forgiveness a gift to herself, born of Maggie's wisdom and Ava's grace. One afternoon, as they neared the mural's completion, Daniel appeared at the park's edge, his leather jacket worn, his steps tentative. Ava noticed, her brush stilling, her breath catching. Dad's here, she whispered, her voice soft, her hand tightening around her brush. Emily's pulse quickened, her hands clenching, but she nodded, her voice calm. Go say hi, sweetie, she said, her eyes meeting Ava's, offering strength. Ava hesitated, then crossed the grass, her apron fluttering, and Emily watched, her heart a storm of old wounds and new peace. Daniel and Ava spoke quietly, their heads bent, the mural's colors glowing behind them. When Ava returned, her eyes were bright with unshed tears, but her smile was steady. He's proud of me, she said, her voice small, leaning into Emily's side, her warmth grounding. Emily wrapped an arm around her, her voice soft. He should be, she said, her gaze drifting to Daniel, who nodded from a distance, his expression raw. We're okay, Ava. Ava nodded, her hand finding Emily's, their fingers interlocking, a silent vow. As the mural was unveiled, Emily stood back, Ava at her side, the sunset casting their shadows across the wall, the herons seeming to soar into the sky. Portland's skyline twinkled beyond, its lights a constellation of possibility. The crowd clapped, their cheers a warm wave. But Emily's world narrowed to Ava's hand in hers, the lavender scent drifting from a nearby garden, a promise of closure. We did it, Emily whispered, her voice soft, the mural a testament to their resilience. Ava hugged her, her arms strong, her voice a whisper against Emily's shoulder. I love you, Mom. Emily's heart swelled, tears falling, her sobs silent but joyful. The echoes of ashes had faded, replaced by a song of love, quiet but enduring, in the heart of Portland's embrace. If you find the story interesting, please like and share this video and leave a comment with your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe to Sweet Revenge and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos.